One of the major selling points of the Steam Deck is the ability to game anywhere at any time. But you may be wondering, is it as convenient as how others say it is? So today, I'll take you with me on my vacation, where I will show you number 1, the accessories that I use, and number 2, how it feels to play the Steam Deck both in dock mode as well as portable mode. And hopefully, by watching this video, it will give you a glimpse on whether the Steam Deck is for you or not. Let's check it out. Alright, so I just got done packing for my trip and am ready to go. But before I do that, I want to give a quick rundown on the Steam Deck accessories that I'm gonna bring along for my trip. And I will put a link to every accessory that I included in this video in the description. Alright friends, so here is the JSAUX travel case, and this is the case that I use whenever I want to take my Steam Deck on vacation, and you will see why as I give you a mini tour of it. So let's open this up, shall we? So over here, I love how there's this strap here. This strap, the whole idea of it is you tuck your Steam Deck under here and just keeps your Steam Deck in place. Now, there are these crevices that also help with it, but having this extra thing as a protection just keeps your Steam Deck really sturdy. However, as you unfold it, there is more to it. As you can see over here, there is this tiny pouch where you can put some tiny light work accessories, like for example, if you use AirPods or you have these tiny micro SD cards, you can all put that in here to keep it safe and secure. Now, you may be wondering, what is this for? Now, the thing about JSAUX with this case is that they try to make it as something that is for all kinds of handhelds, and we all know that the Nintendo Switch 2, there are physical games, so I would assume that there are people who uses this JSAUX case and use it for the Nintendo Switch 2, and they want to take some of their games on the go, so they would put the cartridges in here. But anyways, let's move on to the next part that is actually really cool. So as you can see over here, this thing actually opens up. And this is an entire place for you to put all sorts of accessories, the big boys, okay? No matter if it's the charger, no matter if it is the dock and whatnot. But what's really cool is actually this thing here, all right? Let's see what it is. So the thing is that this is actually a bank for your micro SD cards. So let's say if you are somebody who uses multiple micro SD cards, which by the way, I should be doing that at a certain point. But anyways, as far as these slots go, let's say if you are somebody who has a whole bunch of micro SD cards that you use for your Steam Deck and you want to be able to take them on the go for vacation, then you would put those micro SD cards in here and keep it safe and secure. Now, on top of that, there's also these labels here. These labels are for people who, if they have multiple micro SD cards and they only store certain types of games by the genre on specific micro SD cards, they can usually label their micro SD cards with these appropriate labels. Like for example, if you use a micro SD card that is only for RPG games, you can pop this label onto your micro SD card. If you play, puzzle games and you designate one of the micro SD cards for puzzle games for your Steam Deck, you can put this label in. It says PZL, aka puzzle, just as a few examples. Now that I gave you a quick tour of the JSAUX travel case, I want to show you all how well this case will fit all the accessories that I'm going to bring on my vacation. So over here, we have the HDMI cord. Let's put it in here. We have this JSAUX USB-C extension cord, in which I will talk to you why I decided to bring this on vacation. You'll see why. We got the official Steam Deck docking station, and we also got this power cord from Valve. And last but not least, the Steam Deck itself. So yeah, the JSAUX travel case is definitely a game changer for me. I feel like it is definitely a case that you should buy if you are somebody who travels and takes your Steam Deck along with you at all times. You'll definitely not regret it. It is definitely a major upgrade compared to the first-party travel cases from Valve. Now that I gave an overview of the JSAUX case as well as the accessories I'm gonna bring on my trip, I want to transition into the actual meat of this video, showing you all how I play the Steam Deck both on dock mode as well as handheld mode and show how versatile they both can be. Alright friends, so I made it to the vacation spot. As you can see over here, I have my Steam Deck plugged in and ready to play on the TV, but I want to show you a few things about how I set it up because that is something that is really important to note. All right. So over here, as you can see, this was the USB-C extension cord from JSAUX, in which I showed you earlier when I put it into the JSAUX travel case. So it goes from here and all the way down, loop it back up, and here it attaches to the USB-C socket that comes with the official docking station from Valve. And this is something that is really important to note because, as you can see over here, this dock's USB-C socket is very weirdly shaped. It just zigs down and then it zigs up. It's really weirdly shaped. Now, normally, if your Steam Deck is bare bones, in this case it isn't because there is this extra outer case out here to protect it. But normally with the Steam Deck bare bones, you are able to fit this right here into the Steam Deck's port to output to the TV. But with this case on and it being a very tight fit, this over here with this weird shape, I was never able to put it into the Steam Deck. It always just comes off or does not have good connection, and therefore I cannot output my Steam Deck's signal to the TV. So what I did was I bought this JSAUX extension cord, this extension USB-C cord, and used that to plug it into here, and therefore it becomes able to output to the TV. And that is something to really note because I see a lot of people on YouTube, they say that, oh, if you have an outer case, just cut it out a little bit so then you can be able to fit this in. While that worked, and I believe that it worked, but I personally care about my case too much. I don't want to destroy it, and this is the best solution I can do. And there's also another reason as to why, in which I'll show you right now. So the second reason in which I bought the JSAUX USB-C extension cord is because I love the ergonomics of the Steam Deck. It feels really comfy in the hands. As a result, when playing on the TV, I just want to have the feeling of treating the Steam Deck as a controller and outputting the game from the TV. And I will say that for the most part, I actually did not have any problems with it, which is quite surprising because usually as far as connections goes, you want it to be a direct connection in order to guarantee the best performance possible. And where if you have an indirect connection, in this case a JSAUX USB-C extension cord, sometimes the signal may not be as good and it could potentially be laggy, but I did not feel anything in that atmosphere whatsoever. So that is something that is really cool. However, I would have to take note that when updating SteamOS, I noticed that there is an interruption which caused the signal from the dock to be lost from the TV, and where I ended up having to manually unplug the HDMI cord and replug it in before rebooting the Steam Deck and having it output to the TV again. So if playing on the TV is your cup of tea, then I will highly recommend you to definitely update your Steam Deck before plugging it into the TV. That way you don't have any kind of interruptions and inconveniences. But other than that, there was no problems when using the Steam Deck as a controller. No matter if I am currently playing a game or scrolling on the dashboard, everything was very responsive. I had no problems whatsoever. So that is something that is really good to note. Now that I showed you how it feels like gaming on dock mode, I want to transition into showing you how it feels to be playing in portable mode. So even though the Steam Deck is a handheld PC, it definitely has the look and feel of gaming on a handheld console like the Nintendo Switch 2. As you can see, I use my Steam Deck bare bones. I don't use a keyboard, I don't use a controller, just the Steam Deck buttons themselves. And it is really fun and versatile and flexible and easy to use in my opinion. There are so many great games that I could enjoy on my Steam Deck with little to no tinkering. As for the battery life of the Steam Deck, it is not bad in my opinion. I get an average of 2 to 3 hours depending on how graphically demanding the games are, and to me that is plenty because you gotta understand that as an adult with different responsibilities, I usually only have a limited amount of time every day to game anyways, and especially on vacation when I'm out and about constantly, I would be lucky to even have 2 hours straight where I relax in game, and when I do, it usually is when I want to wind down at the end of the day, and by that time I'm usually at the place that I stay anyway, so worst come to worst, if I get to a point where my Steam Deck is at low battery, I can easily find a place to charge it at an outlet and where I could continue my game session if needed. So yeah, the battery life of the Steam Deck is very reasonable for a lot of the games. As long as you remember to charge your Steam Deck every night, you should be fine. Now, if you are somebody who plans to go camping where you may not have access to indoors and I'm wondering if there is a possibility to squeeze in a quick session at dusk, I would say that it actually is possible to play the Steam Deck during dusk time, and it is gonna be something that is not bad at all. As you can see, I'm using the Steam Deck OLED 1TB out in the wilderness with trees surrounding me in the background, and with the display of the Steam Deck OLED screen not so bright, I do not feel any kind of discomfort, so I will say it is definitely possible to game on the Steam Deck outdoors, though for health reasons obviously, I will only recommend doing so during the late evening when the sun is not so bright out, and make sure that it is at a place where there is plenty of shade because you don't want to hurt your eyes. But again, that's just me. So yeah, the Steam Deck is a really great travel buddy in my opinion. As long as you have the right accessories, you'll have no problem packing and bringing it on your trip. When done right, the Steam Deck will not be a burden, but a blessing. It's just amazing how Valve made a PC handheld which just is so versatile and so flexible and just makes it so seamlessly in which all gamers could enjoy. It is something that in which I never would have expected prior to buying a Steam Deck. As someone who came from consoles and had no prior experience with PC gaming prior to the Steam Deck, all I knew about PC gaming before the Steam Deck was mouse and keyboard and desktop. That's all I knew, so I had no clue about how portable the Steam Deck would be until I actually had my hands on with it, and where it totally blew my mind. So yeah, it is really great in my opinion, but I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about the Steam Deck? Is it a PC handheld in which you definitely will want to pick it up? Is it something that you would take on your vacation, or would you most likely just leave it at home? We'd love to discuss in the comment section below. If you love gaming discussions like this one, I have plenty of other gaming discussions in which I share about things related to the Steam Deck, as well as share about other things that are related to the gaming community in which I feel like it's worth discussing, so feel free to check it out. I will link the whole playlist in the end screens. So yeah, and as always, if you love gaming discussions, gaming lists, gaming reviews, and everything related to Steam Deck, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe so you not miss another video. I try to post Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific time and occasionally on Fridays, so stay tuned. Once again, my name is Joanne for the Nomadic Gaming Guild, and game on!